Hey everyone, happy Friday. I am sorry that I'm late. It has been quite a day, uh, quite a week if I'm being honest. Have you ever had one of those weeks where it's just go, 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 go like all week? Um, that's been my week. So today was no different. So I'll let you guys get a chance to get settled while I take a breath and get organized here. Just a minute. Thank you for coming. Welcome, welcome. Um, If you are new to this whole Ask Me Anything, let me introduce myself. My name's Adrian Neibauer. I run Adrian's newsletter. I'm a fifth grade teacher in a suburban school district here in Colorado. Um, and it's been about once a month. The last Friday of every month, I've been doing a live kind of Ask Me Anything. So I've really enjoyed doing them. And so I've got a bunch of questions lined up here, but I just need just a moment to kind of like get myself organized. So I'm gonna just pull things up here and we can get started here in just a minute. So if you're just now joining us, welcome, welcome. Let's see if I can't get this going here. Here we go. There we go. I wanted to get the live chat going in case anybody has questions in the next half an hour or so. So, like I said, welcome. Happy Friday. If you're just now joining and tuning in, it's been quite a week. So I apologize for my tardiness. I've been going, go, go all week. I feel like I hit the ground running. We came back from spring break Monday was our first day back, and this has been our first week back, and it's just been like go, 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 go. So we're back in it. Hopefully you are either I guess you could be just starting your spring break, you could be just finishing your spring break like me. Hopefully wherever you are, you're settled in, you're ready to go. I want to respect your time, so I'm going to jump right into some of these questions. um, if you're just now joining, my name's Adrian. I run Adrian's newsletter, and I put out a publication about once a week on Monday mornings. Just kind of thoughts about my day or my week, things I'm working on in my classroom, projects that I'm doing with my kiddos. So if you're new to Substack or you want to subscribe to that, that would be awesome. I really appreciate that. Hopefully, it provides some value. I always try and provide resources for people. So hopefully, things you can use in your classroom or in whatever your situation is. And like I was saying about the last Friday of every month, I've been doing these live Ask Me Anything. So I've had a lot of fun with them. And so I think I'm settled and ready to go. And I'd like to just jump into some of these questions. So let's see. Question number one: how do you make standardized testing prep not miserable? Okay, standardized testing prep is absolutely miserable. We are just entering testing season. We start testing in 2 weeks, which means this next week would be prep for testing. The short answer to that question is that I don't do much to make it not miserable. I actually don't do much prep at all. Um, I really don't believe in teaching to the test. I don't believe in drilling kids to try and score a certain score on this test. And so, what I usually do is the week prior, so next week, I just show kids the platform, the tools, the materials that they're going to be using, how they navigate, how do they go to the different questions, highlight features, things like that. Pretty standard, just basic, get them ready for the situation of testing. Um, and it's not that I don't try, like, it's not that I don't make it not miserable. I don't try and sugarcoat it, is what I'm trying to say. I don't try and convince them that it is going to be anything, you know, super fun. I really just try and be honest with kiddos. And I spend a lot of what I have spent a time doing and what I will be spending next week doing a lot of is really just building up kids' self-esteem. There's a lot of anxiety around testing. And so a lot of it is just me reinforcing in them. I know you can do this. I know it stinks. I know it's hard. But sometimes we have to do hard things. And I believe in you. I know you can do it. And just do the best you can. That's really all I care about, is that you do your best. So I don't really do anything super fun to make standardized tests fun. Um, I don't want to try and, lie to my students and try and convince them that prepping for a standardized test is meant to be fun. Kids are so quick to know when teachers are trying to blow smoke up there, but like they'll know when I say like, well, we're playing a game and it turns out to be some really not fun game or a learning activity that's not fun. It's much better if you're just honest with them and you just say, this is what we're doing and we're going to make the best out of it. So that's how I deal with testing prep. So in fifth grade, we're going to be testing for about the entire month of April. So, well, 3 weeks in April. So it's going to be a slog. In fifth grade, we do a lot of tests. So that's too bad. How do you keep student energy up during standardized testing? Another great question. So I talked, I think last time, there's this dark period, I think, like of the year where it's hard, low energy, and it's right after Christmas break, right after December, all the way into spring break. There's not a lot of breaks in between there. It's winter tends to cling for a bit, and it can be hard to kind of get going and do things.
Social worker
Oh,
Carrie, can
sorry.
you please call
Um,
63
it's hard to
000?
sometimes. We'll let them finish.
The main office, thank you. Social worker Carrie.
Sorry about that. That's the lovely thing about being live. Um, anyways, that time between January and March can be a slog because there's not a lot of breaks. Winter sometimes clings on. We get a lot of snow in March in Colorado. Um, and then, so during that time, I tend to do a lot of group projects that kind of keep kids motivated. I do a lot of project-based learning anyways, but especially during that time, I try and do some very specific projects that are a little bit different than what we would be doing earlier in the year. So let me give you an example. In the early part of the year, we might do like a book report where they're in their small book clubs and they've got to do some sort of a report or some kind of a presentation based on their main character. That's like a small project. But in the second and the third trimester, so during that time, and then also during standardized testing, we do some projects that are a lot more independent, where they're working on something by themselves, and it's usually a bit larger. So I'll do like a genius hour where I give them a problem to solve and they've got to research and they get to try and come up with a solution, or maybe they come up with a problem to solve. John Spencer has this great thing called Wonder Day or Wonder Week. I'll put a link to it in the post that goes out after this. But I love projects like that because it gives kids a chance to really just explore something. So especially during standardized testing, in those low periods where their brain is mush from taking tests, I want them to go and do something that they're super excited about, something that's very curiosity driven. And so those wonder projects are great. If you've heard of Genius Hour or like I said, John Spencer's wonder projects, they're really just open-ended projects that give kids a chance to really just explore a topic that they are interested in and something specific that they don't usually get a chance to study in school, which is great. And then at the end of the year, my projects tend to be really, really wide open. So at the end of the year, I always organize kind of a mini student-led conference session, not like student-led teacher conferences, but this idea of like if we went to an educational conference and had breakout rooms and kids and people are doing presentations on something that they're passionate about, I do something similar to that at the very end of the year where kids get to basically teach us something that they're really, really excited about. So I'm sure I'll write about that as we get closer to the end of the year. But man, that's a lot of fun. That gets energy way up because I'll have kids teaching about origami, about Rubik's Cubes, about Minecraft, about cooking, about birds, about reptiles. I mean, there's so many different things. And the fact that they're teaching us about it is always fun. So projects like that, I try and save those bigger, open-ended, independent projects towards the latter half of the year, the last third of the year, just to help with the trying to get through standardized testing and things like that. So, great question. How do you support students beyond academics? Let's see. I mean, I wish I could say that I'm one of those teachers that goes to every single recital and every single sporting event. I wish that I could, but I just can't. I mean, I've got my own family and my own children, and those always take precedence over my students, outside school. But I do have a very vested interest in what they're doing outside of school. So I know who's doing the plays. I know who's got the soccer games. the football matches, the tournaments. And so I'm always asking after those things. I'm saying, hey, how was your tournament last weekend? So just the fact that I know that they're doing those things and I show an interest and I ask them about those things, I feel like that shows that I support my kiddos, my students outside of school, even if I can't be there. I would love to be able to be there. And in rare cases, I'm able to go to like a recital or a practice or something like, or a game or something like that. But if I'm being honest, I can't make all the things. I've got 27 kids, and it would be really hard for me to try and make all the different stuff. So I really just try and make sure that I know what's going on in my students' lives. You know, I know who gets the new pet. I know who's got a pet that just passed away. I know who's trying out for a solo in the musical. I know who is got a big tournament coming up or a piano recital, and I ask after them. I talk them through it. I show a lot of interest because the truth is that I am really, really excited about their lives outside of school, even if I can't be there for all the things. So I feel like that's one way that I can really help support them is just be that extra fan in their lives. I mean, what would you do if you knew that you had other people rooting for you? You know, and so I try and just be that person who's rooting for them. So okay, next one is about AI. AI is a tough one. Okay, so what's my take in general? This question is great. This one came from Danny. I really appreciate this one, Danny. You got me because I've been trying to avoid talking about this, and now you're going to get me talking about AI in education. So Danny asks, what's your take on it in general? Potential, current benefits, drawbacks, concerns, questions we should be asking, factors that ed tech companies should be considering. It's a great meaty question. Okay, so I have strong feelings about AI, but I'm in a unique position being a fifth grade teacher in that AI really hasn't infiltrated my classroom yet. Small ways, Grammarly is an extension that is pretty much installed, and it has been installed. Most kids install it for years now, but now that Grammarly is AI based and has an AI component, it's there. But other than that, or other than like sometimes I'll have kids go like just for fun, we'll for an essay that we've written, I'll have them use like an AI title generator just to fun to give them a chance to like play around with it. But other than those like things, I don't usually use or have much experience with AI in my classroom. And there's a reason why. My fifth graders are 10 years old, and they're Gen Alpha, Generation Alpha. They are literally the first generation that is completely digitally native. They're digital natives. They've grown up. Some of my students got their first cell phone when they were 2 years old, if you can believe that. Okay, first iPad, cell phone when they were 2 years old. They've been on screens a lot, and their interactions with their tech selves and their lives on tech, it makes a difference with how they interact with people outside. So, like in the real world, in real life. So, let me give you an example. A lot of my students have YouTube channels. A lot of my students spend a lot of time in virtual reality settings like Oculus Rift. They do a lot of gaming, Minecraft, you name it, okay? Hours and hours and hours outside of school. When they come here, I want them, my goal is to try and I've always had this goal, but it's been harder lately, is to try and get them to see that technology is a tool and not something that just is like the ubiquitous air that we breathe. And I realize that I say that, and it is the ubiquitous air that we breathe. Technology is everywhere. But I want them to understand that I don't want them to offload themselves to computers, to AI, because given the choice, a 10-year-old, if they had the choice to do something challenging or have fun, go out and play or play a video game, they're going to choose the go out and play. In fact, most of us would. And it's just too easy. It would be too tempting for them to offload so much of their thinking into AI. So I'm lucky in that I'm grateful that really students aren't using AI to like write essays or plagiarize texts. I don't think they've really seen that as even an option yet. Um, One ways that I avoid that is we do a lot of writing in our journals. I've actually gone back old school to like paper, pencil, notebooks, rough draft. I know that some of my students receive accommodations with voice to text, and we still use that. But I think that there's something to be said for getting your ideas on paper through your hands. And so things like there's a lot of drawbacks. the first thing is that when I think kids are just too tempted, especially young kids would be too tempted to just offload all of their thinking and let the AI just generate whatever it is. And I want them to do the hard work because really, I'm at this age, I'm teaching them how to think. I'm teaching them how to think hard and think critically. And if they believe that the computer can just do it for them and they don't have to think, I don't want them to do that. So those are big drawbacks, concerns, is that I don't want kids to get used to other people or other entities, computers thinking for them, not other people. I don't want my students to get used to the idea of computers thinking for them. So, however, I do see benefits, and I'm not like I was a early adopter for one-to-one iPads in my classroom, Chromebooks in my classroom. Like I love technology in my classroom. I feel like it's been a game changer. I was one of those teachers. I was trying to flip my classroom. First one to use a learning management system. We got the lights off. There we go. Um, and so uh, I do see a lot of benefits to using technology, but I feel like it has to be done with extreme caution and intention, especially the younger we are with students. So, like for example, I mentioned having a fun way of generating a title for an essay. Well, what they have to put into that is they have to put in what their essay is about. They have to put in key details. They're putting in the meat of that, and they're just getting like a fun little like title for their essay. That's an intentional use, and it's fun. Um, I think AI generated art. If you know, like, computer with ideas for them to draw. I've got a lot of artists in my room this year, so I feel like that could be some benefits. Um, I think the things that ed tech companies should be considering is um, really just like warning labels. So I mean, I feel like that it's just in some cases AI isn't developmentally appropriate for young students. And I know that high school teachers are probably saying the same thing, like, oh man, I've got problems with my high schoolers using it, or college students, same thing. But I feel like that if I just allow carte blanche and my kids to just use AI for all things, by the time they get to college, they will be so used to using AI for all their thinking that they will have, it's like a learned helplessness. They won't even think that it's an option to think for themselves. So, um, one thing I think ed tech companies should be aware of is not trying to gamify it and sugarcoat it so that kids want to use it all the time. And I know I'm saying that, and they're like, "Well, that's how we get kids to buy into these apps." Um, but I would love it if ed tech companies worked with teachers to really see AI as a tool that could be used in a positive way in very small intentional ways. Um, so those are just kind of some of my first thinking. I do feel strongly about AI, but there are a lot of people out there, especially on Substack, that are way more eloquent than I about that. John Warner just has a new book out called More Than Words. I highly recommend you pick that up. Mark Watkins has a great Substack called Rhetorica, talks about AI quite a bit. I saw Josh Brake on here. He's got a great Substack where he talks about AI at the college level. There are a lot of people out there that have more nuanced and more eloquent ways of explaining their positions on AI. Luckily for me, right now, I just have this, I have a very controlled environment that I just try and keep my kids thinking. So there's that. All right, let's see. What is one piece of advice you'd give yourself if you go back to your first day of teaching? Oh my gosh, if I could go back to my first day of teaching, if I can even remember my first day of teaching. I've been teaching 22 years. This is my 22nd year. And if I could go back to my first day of teaching, I think I would tell myself to try and breathe more and not put so much pressure on delivering. Yeah, on like a lesson delivering or landing. I think I know when I first started teaching, I don't I didn't realize that the messiness of learning was the nature of learning. I thought that if a lesson didn't go well, if I didn't explain it well, if it didn't run smoothly, I felt that it was a mistake, that it was a failure, that I had failed that lesson. So I think my biggest advice to myself would just be, look, take a breath, know your content, know what you're supposed to be teaching. Um, I was new, so I didn't have much craft knowledge. I had a little bit of pedagogical knowledge, but not much. So I would say, get to know your kids, know your craft, and then just be okay with the messiness of learning. And jump in there and get your hands dirty. And you're going to make mistakes. You're going to say the wrong thing. And you're going to have to go back and be like, you know what? I taught you that. And that actually is wrong. And so I need to go back and fix things. I've done that before where I've like started waxing poetic about something and turns out I'm not even correct. So I've had to go back and fix things. I try and normalize making mistakes in my classroom in front of my kids. I make mistakes all the time. Sometimes I do it on purpose when I want them to know or see if they're paying attention. Other times it's just me being human. So my advice would be like, go back and just breathe, and it's going to be okay. So that's a great question. That came from Danny as well. Let's see. This is a wonderful question. There's a lot of students. This is kind of a longer one, but let's see. It says there's always students who need more individual attention than a single teacher can provide. Why not train students to be in-class tutors, so they could feel some ownership and feel like the boss, reinforcing their understanding. So I think the question is like, how would you use peer tutoring or students teaching each other? In my classroom? That's a lovely question. I think students being the experts in something is wonderful. And in fact, I think if you really want to know how well you know something, whether you're 10 or 36, is by teaching it. First, by writing it. If you can, when you start writing, then you really know how well you know something, but also by teaching. And so I have a mixed ability group. I've got some GT students in my room, I've got some multilingual learners in my room, and then I've got, the bell curve group in the middle. And it's very easy for my higher students to just do the work, hang out among themselves, and not really interact with anybody else. It's also really tempting for teachers to like pair the high student with the really low student, say, can you work with that student, help bring them up? I think that's a little unfair on that high student and really unfair on the low student as well, because you're offloading too much of your responsibility of teaching um, onto the kids. So what I like to do is I like to use random groups all the time. I got that idea from Peter Lillijal, Building Thinking's classroom. He uses randomized groups specifically in math. I use them in almost everything because I want my students working with every single person in the room all the time. And so yes, sometimes I'll have, two high kids and one low kid. Three seems to be my magic number for groups. But often what I will do is I will make sure that whatever task or problem I give a group, so a group of three that's totally random in terms of abilities, I want to make sure it has a very low floor so that every kid has easy access or entry point to whatever the task is, and a very high ceiling, which means you can take it and go as high as you want with this. So low floor, high ceiling tasks. So I'm looking for, like, if I've got some multilingual learners and it's a task that's a reading task, I want to make sure that vocabulary cards are there, that kids know the vocabulary and that they're going through the vocabulary with each other. So even if there's students who know the vocabulary words are, I want them drawing out the words, all of them. Okay. I use a lot of visual thinking in my room, a lot of sketch noting. I teach my kids how to sketch note. And so I want them to be able to like all work through that together. And then, if it's a math task and we've got math vocabulary, I want them passing the marker and sharing each other's thinking so that even if like someone doesn't fully understand the problem, okay, one person, like, let's say the high student has the marker and they really want to say something. If they've got the marker and they're the ones who want to say something, they've got to pass the marker, because the person with the marker, especially in math, is the one doing the writing, the scribing for the people who are sharing. And if they really want to say something, then they pass it. And that means that they're passing it to someone who may not fully understand what the person's going to say. So that requires that high student to say, okay, this is what I think we should go up on the board. I want you to write this down. And so it enables a natural way of teaching through explaining things to get from the thinking in our heads onto a whiteboard, onto a paper, into a project, things like that. So I love in-class tutoring. I love peer support. Um, I haven't really gone much beyond that, so I don't know if this question is specific to like tutoring in a specific subject, but I love mixing my kids up. So all right, so the last list of questions, I know I came in late and we're getting close to 4 o'clock, and I want to respect everyone's time. So I'm going to call this the lightning round. Danny was kind to send a whole bunch of great questions. I tried not to look at them, Denny. I just copied and pasted them. So I'm going to answer them lightning round style. We're just going to go quick, okay? Favorite lesson, worst lesson. Favorite lesson by far, teaching Hamlet. I love Shakespeare. I love teaching Hamlet to students. One of my favorite lessons was teaching the to be or not to be speech, fifth grade. It was awesome. It had like serious Dead Poet Society, John Keating vibes. Loved it. Worst lesson that I've ever taught. Um, Worst lesson I've ever taught was, um, I did a lesson. I did a lesson. It was a science lesson, and it was like a mixtures, like a chemistry mixtures and solutions thing. And kids had to make water basically dirty, and then they had to clean it up. Um, and I'm kind of a neat freak. Like it was awful, and I really did not like the fact that they were just making a mess and splat. They were just basically splashing and making a mess, and it was not fun. Didn't think the learning in that was worth making the mess. So favorite lesson, Hamlet. Worst lesson, cleaning up dirty water. If I were teaching, what other career would I love to explore? Man, I would love to just be a professional writer, reader, and writer. I wish that I could. One time in my life, I thought that I had some chops to be a poet, and I love reading and writing poetry. I even started blogging, doing posting poems a long time ago. Um, I would love to just have time to read and write and be a professional writer. I think that would be awesome to just have someone pay me to sit and read and then write about things and try and move people. Man, I love that. So, what's harder, the Friday before break or the Monday after one? Monday, always Monday. Mondays are always hard. I've been teaching a long time. I didn't notice it right away, but Mondays are always hard, whether it's coming from a break, especially so. But Mondays are hard, even coming back from the weekend. My kids, my students, they spend their weekends doing like anti-school stuff, like hours and hours, dozens of hours, like 30 hours of video gaming. They're not sleeping well, they're not eating well, and so then they come in and it's like if it's like they're hungover and going through withdrawals. And so Mondays are always hard. I will take a Friday craziness over the Monday slog anytime. Um, what are you most proud of? Um, I think I'm just most proud of my family. I've got three kids. One of them's graduating from high school this year. Very proud of him. Yeah, I've my own kids are probably the biggest thing I'm proud of. What definition of success do you want students to internalize? Love this question. Work ethic. I would rather you give me 100% of what you can give me than natural talent any day. So if you come in and you're only at 50%, then give me all 50% as much as you can because you're having a hard time. So I try and just teach my kids. I wish they could internalize that their self-value, their self-worth is not tied into their ability to do something well. I just want them to work hard. Um, my two of my three kids have dyslexia. School has always been hard for them. I probably had dyslexia when I was a kid, undiagnosed. School was hard for me, but man, I work hard, even though like it's not going to always be successful. I feel like if I can just teach them to put in the work, and when you fail and you mess up, it doesn't mean you're a bad person. It just means you didn't get it this time. So get back on that horse, get back off the ground, get up off the ground, dust yourself off, and get back to it. So, um, what is in your ideal snack drawer at work? Probably Snickers bars and trail mix. I'm a sweet tooth. That sweet salty mix, man. I would love. Oh, and Reese's. I would love a bunch of Reese's. I could go for Reese's right now, actually. So, um, yeah, those are great questions, Danny. Thank you so much. So yeah, those are a lot of questions. It's about 4 o'clock. Let me check to see if there's anybody who's got any questions in the chat. If anybody wants me to elaborate more on anything else that I've chatted about, doesn't look like it. So, well, everyone, thank you. Have a wonderful weekend. I think I'm going to keep doing this. I like these Friday. I feel relaxed now, a lot more relaxed than I did at the beginning. So I think I'm going to keep doing like the last Friday of the month. So spread the word. If you got people who you think might enjoy listening to me talk about what I do, invite them. The more the merrier. Send me questions, and let's just keep it going. So have a great weekend, and I will see you all later. Take care, everybody. Bye.